Your support truly makes a difference. With nearly 90% of our viewers still not subscribed, we need your help to keep creating meaningful, engaging stories. Backhand index pointing right, please hit that subscribe button and tap the notification bell. Globe showing Europe, Africa, and tell us where you're watching from. Drop your city in the comments below. Part 1. The Spark She Forgot. Sienna stood at the kitchen sink, warm water cascading over her hands as she absent-mindedly scrubbed the dishes. The rhythmic splash of water against ceramic was almost calming, but her thoughts were far from peaceful. Ethan, her husband of 10 years, had left for work an hour ago, like clockwork. Dressed sharply in a tailored suit, briefcase in one hand, coffee in the other. Their mornings had become a perfectly timed routine, a carefully choreographed ritual that had long since lost its soul. As Sienna wiped her hands with a towel, she couldn't help but reflect on how distant things had become. Once, their love had been electric, late-night conversations that stretched until sunrise, impromptu road trips, and laughter that echoed through every corner of their home. Now, their talks centered around bills, deadlines, and who forgot to take the trash out. The warmth had faded, replaced by silence that neither of them knew how to break. Then came Leo. He entered their lives on a perfectly ordinary Tuesday, hired to help tidy the house. With an easy smile and an infectious charm, Leo brought with him a lightness that had been missing for years. Unlike Ethan, whose mind was always occupied with meetings and spreadsheets, Leo was present. He asked about Sienna's day. He cracked silly jokes while vacuuming. And when she laughed, truly laughed, she realized how long it had been since she last heard that sound come from herself. Weeks passed. Leo became a familiar face in their home, and Sienna began to anticipate his visits. They'd talk as he worked, drifting from favorite books to childhood dreams, his attention never straying. He was kind, thoughtful, and most of all, he saw her. One afternoon, with Ethan stuck at work late again, Sienna and Leo found themselves alone in the freshly cleaned living room. A gentle floral scent lingered in the air. Leo had brought flowers. They sat and chatted, their conversation flowing effortlessly. The comfort was disarming. "Do you ever feel like you're living someone else's life?" Sienna asked softly, surprised at her own vulnerability. Leo looked at her, something warm flickering in his eyes. "All the time," he said. "But it's never too late to change the story." His words lingered, electrifying the quiet between them. Sienna glanced at him, their proximity suddenly tangible. In that moment, time seemed to still. Their eyes met, and something unspoken passed between them. A dangerous kind of understanding. One that could lead to awakening or ruin. As the days blurred into weeks, their bond deepened. They shared stories, exchanged laughter, and Sienna found herself revealing pieces of her heart she hadn't touched in years. Leo encouraged her dreams, the ones she'd long buried under responsibilities. And yet, guilt gnawed at her. She was still married, still bound by vows. But every stolen moment with Leo made her wonder, what if? One evening, after Leo left, Sienna stood in the quiet house, staring at a framed photo of her and Ethan from their honeymoon, young, glowing in love. Tears welled in her eyes. When had they become strangers? Was there still something left to save? That night, as she lay in bed beside Ethan, memories of the day spun in her mind. The joy, the tension, the dangerous comfort she found in Leo. It was both thrilling and terrifying. She felt herself standing at a crossroads, two very different futures stretching out before her. The next day, something unexpected happened. Ethan came home early. With a bouquet of flowers in hand, a rare gesture, he walked in with a nervous smile. "I thought maybe we could have dinner together tonight," he said, hope flickering in his eyes. Sienna smiled back, but inside, a storm was raging. As they sat down to eat, the distance between them felt undeniable. Ethan was trying, but something had shifted in her. And as he spoke, all she could hear was the echo of Leo's laughter and the memory of how it made her feel alive. She was vanishing, piece by piece. In the weeks that followed, Sienna found herself standing at the edge of decisions she never imagined she'd face. Each choice felt monumental, every stolen moment with Leo tugging her further from the version of herself she once knew. The boundary between right and wrong had begun to blur, and the thrill of the unknown called to her like a siren song. As she teetered on the brink of change, Sienna knew she couldn't keep hiding from her emotions. Would she stay within the safety of her marriage, the familiarity of a life she'd built for over a decade? Or would she dare to leap into something uncertain, risking everything for the possibility of happiness? The decision loomed, inevitable and heavy. One morning, Sienna stood in front of her bathroom mirror, staring into eyes that felt both hers and not. The reflection showed a woman torn, worn, and yet strangely alive. As she brushed her hair, memories of her last moment with Leo flashed through her mind. A simple touch that lingered too long. A glance that said more than words ever could. It was thrilling, dangerous, and real. In the days that followed, the connection deepened. Their encounters had quietly drifted beyond the context of Leo's work. They met outside of their usual routine, secret coffees in the park, long conversations in places where no one would think to look. Each meeting was a breath of fresh air, a break from the monotony that had dulled her spirit. His laughter filled spaces Ethan no longer reached. But with each stolen moment came a heavier sense of guilt. Sienna began to look over her shoulder, haunted by what she was becoming. She loved Ethan, or at least she had. Yet their life now felt like a checklist: clean the house, pay the bills, keep the peace. The spark that once made her heart race had turned to ash, and the cracks began to show. Ethan, ever attentive in his own quiet way, noticed the shift, the distance, the disconnect. He blamed work stress at first, tried to compensate by planning family dinners and romantic evenings. But Sienna could barely bring herself to engage. Her body was present, but her mind wandered to Leo's voice, his touch, his smile. One evening, in an effort to rekindle what they once had, Ethan surprised her. "I booked the cabin," he said, stepping into the kitchen with an excited look. "By the lake, just like old times. A whole weekend for just us." Sienna froze. Her stomach twisted into knots. The cabin had once been their special place, but now, the thought of being cut off from Leo for 2 whole days made her chest tighten with panic. "That sounds nice," she replied, forcing a smile. "But I have a lot of work to catch up on." Ethan's face fell, the light in his eyes dimming. "Sienna, we need this. I need this. Let's just get away. Forget everything for a little while. You and me." Her heart ached at the tenderness in his voice. He was trying. He was reaching for her, even as she drifted further away. She wanted to be the wife he deserved, loyal, loving, present. But the double life she had created had intoxicated her. For the first time in years, she felt desired, seen, alive. And she was playing with fire. As the days wore on, the tension in her life became unbearable. She juggled home, Ethan, Leo, and the lies it all required. But the threads were fraying fast. One quiet afternoon, while Sienna was dusting the living room, Ethan entered, his face serious, eyes searching. "Sienna, can we talk?" Her pulse quickened. She nodded, already dreading what she knew was coming. They sat across from each other on the couch, a space that once held love, now thick with silence. Ethan leaned forward, his brow furrowed. "I feel like something's wrong," he said gently. "You've been distant for a while now. Is there something you want to tell me?" The truth hung in the air like fog, heavy, suffocating. Sienna opened her mouth, but nothing came out. She simply shook her head. "I'm just busy with everything," Sienna lied, her heart pounding in her chest. Ethan reached across the space between them, gently taking her hand. "I love you, Sienna. I just want to make sure we're okay. You mean the world to me." Tears stung her eyes. The tenderness in his voice, the sincerity in his touch, it made everything hurt that much more. A part of her ached to tell him the truth, to confess all the emotions she had buried. But the words stayed trapped inside her. She nodded instead, offering him a silent, empty comfort. As Ethan continued speaking, Sienna felt the truth settling in her bones like a cold weight. The more she hid, the further she drifted, not just from him, but from herself. She was losing who she was, and in the process, her marriage was slowly slipping through her fingers. The following week, she met Leo at their usual spot, a quaint cafe tucked away from the noise of the world. It had become their little sanctuary. They sipped coffee and shared pastries, the kind of simple joys that once would have felt innocent. But not anymore. Sienna couldn't shake the heaviness in her chest. "You seem miles away today," Leo said, leaning in with a concerned frown. "What's on your mind?" She hesitated, staring down at her untouched drink. "I don't know how much longer I can keep this up," she whispered, her voice barely audible. Leo's smile faded, replaced by something more serious. "You deserve to be happy, Sienna. If this us makes you feel alive again, then why are you fighting it?" Her throat tightened. "Because Ethan doesn't deserve this," she said, her eyes filling with tears. "He's a good man, and I'm breaking his heart." Leo's tone softened. "Life is messy. You can't live it for someone else. Sometimes you have to make impossible choices for your own happiness." The words echoed in her mind long after they parted ways. That night, Sienna lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. The silence was suffocating. Her mind flickered between Ethan's steady devotion and Leo's intoxicating presence. She couldn't keep walking this line, couldn't keep lying to herself or to Ethan. By morning, she had made a decision. Over breakfast, the tension in the room was thick. Ethan read the news, unaware of the emotional storm brewing just across the table. Sienna's hands trembled as she held her coffee cup. She took a deep breath, steadying herself. "Ethan, we need to talk." He looked up, immediately sensing the shift in her tone. "What about us?" "Everything." And with that, the dam broke. Sienna spoke with a trembling voice, laying bare the truth she had buried for weeks. She told him about the loneliness, the emotional distance, the emptiness she felt. About Leo, about the connection that had grown unexpectedly and dangerously. Ethan sat frozen, the color draining from his face. He didn't interrupt. Not once. When she finally finished, the room was filled with a suffocating silence. "You've been seeing someone else?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "Yes," Sienna admitted, the tears now falling freely. "I didn't mean for it to happen. I just felt so lost. I thought maybe I could find myself again." The pain in Ethan's eyes hit her like a blow. "Did you ever stop to think what this would do to me? To us?" His voice cracked. "After everything we've been through, how could you?" Sienna shook her head, overcome with remorse. "I never wanted to hurt you, Ethan. I swear. I didn't know how to ask for help. I didn't know how to say I wasn't okay." The conversation spiraled quickly, grief, anger, betrayal flooding the space between them. Ethan's hurt turned raw, his voice rising with disbelief, while Sienna struggled to explain the unexplainable. "I didn't want to fall for Leo," she said, her voice breaking. "But I felt alive again. And I thought maybe I could find my way back to who I used to be."